record on the computer, and I'm going to welcome everyone to Design 113. And I'm going to turn on the cam real quick so I can say hello from the West Coast. And we are going to be talking about setting type today. I'm actually going to be doing things flip-flop today. We're going to actually go heavily into the demo at the start of class, and then I'm going to jump right into lecture the second half of class. So we get to see the fun part, the first half. I know some of you kind of have to head out, so I want to make sure that we touch on the things that we're going to need to know for this week. So let's talk real quick about what to expect for week 3. First of all, congratulations to everyone. You survived week 2, and now we are over halfway done for this mod. So it's kind of crazy how fast these weeks fly. But here we are, week 3. Just a few housekeeping things I want to go over. Discussion 3. I don't know how you felt about discussion 2, the peer review, but I thought we had a lot of really good comments, and a lot of you offered some really good critiques for your peer review. So I enjoyed reading that. Discussion 3 is the same thing, except we're going to be doing a peer review of the grand opening invitations that we designed last week. So this discussion has 3 parts. You've got to post a JPEG of your invitation from last week. Explain why you made the design decisions you did. Ask for any specific input that you'd like to receive. Also, your initial post does need to be 150 words, okay? Since this is your JPEG, we won't need to cite sources, but you will need to talk about your design. So I want you to talk about the tools you used, how you got the effect you used, why did you go this route, not that route. So talk about it in detail. And then once your post is complete, the second thing you have to do is give suggestions and comments for your other people's work. A minimum of 2 peer reviews. And then the third and last is, please note, an image of the revision needs to be posted to get full credit. A lot of you did really, really well and just forgot to post the after portion of the assignment. So we will learn a lot from seeing the before and after. So please make sure you do that. I think that's the most fun part, is seeing the transformation. So a lot of you were given grading feedback. Well, everyone was given grading feedback, those of you who turned in the week's assignment on time. So you should have that. Let me know if you have any questions about the comments that I've made under the grading rubric. If you don't receive any peer reviews on your specific design, just go with my feedback, okay? You don't have to wait for a student to comment on your work. You can go ahead and make the changes that I suggested on your assignment. A lot of you did really, really well. So congratulations for that. You worked really hard. Those of you who took time to visit the Student Success Center actually did very, very well. So I appreciate that and the effort and the time that goes into that, because I know that time and effort does go into that. And so thank you for doing that. Hopefully you're learning something and feeling more confident in your ability to navigate through Illustrator and do these assignments. Okay, so this week is actually one of my favorite weeks. We get to do a really fun creative assignment. Have any of you looked ahead to see what we're doing for week 3 for assignment 3? Does anyone know? Go ahead and tell me what it is. Scary. Typeface, that's right, exactly. No, this is not scary. This is actually really fun, and a lot of students find this to be the most fun assignment. So don't be scared, I guess, or kind of intimidated by the assignment itself. You're just going to be choosing a font from the approved list. Probably the one that you wrote your paper on would probably be the one that I would use. And you're going to create an illustration of face using only letter forms. And I'll show you some student examples of things that were turned in. I'm also going to do a demo on it so that you can see how there's 2 different ways you can approach it. And so I'll show you more of an intermediate way you can take things. And then also I'll show you a beginner way that you can take things. So just whatever you're comfortable with. It's just to allow you to explore your creative side a little bit. So consider the personality of the font. Try to capture it in the character of the person that you create. Remember, it just needs to be the face. It doesn't need to be arms, shoulders, neck. It doesn't need to be all that, just the face. Is it a man or a woman, young or old? What kind of personality and attitude would be descriptive of the font that you choose? And now remember, you do need to choose from the approved list. So just make sure you do that at 8.5 by 11. We're going to jump into Illustrator for our first demo. and I'll show you how to do that. You'll just save it as a PDF, black and white only use approved fonts, only one typeface, please. And then you can use different styles like bold and italic within that typeface, but you do need to name the typeface that's displayed, and that's about it. So that's assignment 3. That is actually one of the most fun to demo, and it's one of the most fun for students to turn in. So hopefully you have fun as well. And then for assessment 3, we're just doing some basic typesetting, body copy. I'm going to be showing you some groundwork of how to build a foundation for this is going to tie into our final project. So you really want to be able to master this. We're going to be learning how to lay out our research paper in a 2 or 3 column InDesign document, okay? Next week, for our final project, we're going to be learning how to do a 2-page spread, and we're going to be laying out our article in a more design, I guess, more design heavy, visually pleasing way. This is just basic setting of copy. So I'm going to show you how to use paragraph and character styles to ensure that you have a consistent treatment of the text. We're going to be looking out for widows and orphans and all that jazz. I'll show you how to set up a grid system. You will be graded on that. We're going to also go over 19 rules today of appropriate alignment, font style, size, tracking, leading. And when we get through all 19, you will be held accountable for applying those to your assessment, okay? So please make sure that you pay attention, even if you do have to leave after the demos. Okay, so that is just some quick housekeeping. Let's jump into our lecture. And this will be a short lecture before we jump right into the demo, and then we'll kind of flip-flop back. We're going to talk about a designer's main goals. I do have a video to watch. We might watch this at the end of class just because I want to make time for the actual demo. But the main point here is legibility, readability. They're kind of 2 different things, but legibility is the type, is kind of a question you have to ask. Is the type large enough and distinct enough that the reader can discriminate the individual words and letters? So what does that mean? Well, we talked a little bit about this in weeks past, that if you're designing for a poster or a grand opening invitation, you really need to be careful of the fonts that you use. They need to be legible. You need to be able to make them out. And by using too scriptive, curly, italic fonts, that can make it hard and put strain on the reader. So it makes it hard to discriminate or to be able to determine what those individual letters are. So it's really important to choose a clean font that's easy to read, that's legible. The readability, you do need to ask yourself, does the quality of the page make it easy to read? Is this inviting? Is it pleasurable to the eye? So readability is more like trying to get them to read on, keep their interest. So that's why we talk about visual interest being the key here. All right, so let's jump into our demo. Let's do InDesign real fast. If you could pull up your InDesign, just let me know, smiley face, or I'm good. Let me know when your InDesign is pulled up, and let me stop share here. Hey, Hillary, thanks for coming. We're just pulling up our InDesign. Just give me a smiley face or an indicator that you've got InDesign up and running, because we are going to jump into that. And actually, I think it might be better if I share my desktop so that everybody can see what it is we're doing. So I'm going to share my desktop instead. And get the screen nice and large. Okay, Crystal and Hillary are ready to go. So it's about half of us. I'll go ahead and start. All right, so this is what I'm talking about when I say get a grid system going. We're gonna get this lined page is a lot like lined paper that you would write in a notebook. That's the idea here, and we wanna be able to position our lines of text on the baseline, which is on that blue baseline. Let's start out with a fresh new document. You need an 8.5 by 11 for this typesetting exercise. 1 page, just deselect facing pages. All right, we don't need them side by side. We will for our final project, but for now, we don't need that. And then letter size, just standard letter size will be an 8.5 by 11. Orientation is portrait. And here below is where you have your column section, and this is where you can indicate the number of columns. Now you're given the option to do a 2 or 3 column grid. I'm going to do 3 columns just to explain a concept. I like 3 columns. The narrower the more columns you have, kind of the less text that you'll need to fill the page. It's just a little trick. The more columns you have, the more spread out the text is, so the more text you'll need to fill the page. So if your article was on the shorter side, you might want to increase the number of columns. But remember, only 2 or 3. The gutter is fine at 1 pica, so if you want to just enter that value in. And you don't have to worry about your margins too much, but I think a 3 pica margin is good all around. I'm not quite sure what the mathematic conversion is for inches or millimeters. If yours is set in something different, just go with your default. I don't believe our assignment gave us any specific margin dimensions or anything. So we're going to go ahead and if you have the preview button clicked, this will allow you to see that you've got it set up correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Now for this assignment, what we're going to need to do, I want to show you a few tricks. So first things first is you're going to want to draw your text boxes. Now in this case, I'm going to stagger mine just to show you, illustrate a point. I'm going to just kind of do these at different random places on the page, different lengths. Okay, so you can see all of my text boxes. Now because I've individually drawn 3 separate text boxes, when I place my text inside, they won't all be connected. They won't overflow into each other. And I want them to overflow into each other. So what I'm going to do is select the first text box. Go here at the bottom anchor point. If you see this little anchor point on the bottom right, you click that. It's the bigger square. You see that little play button? Kind of zoom in. A little play button there is what you want to push. And then you'll just click inside the next text box. And now you want to click on that same bottom right anchor point and click into the next text box. So what that does is we're clicking, it's the overflow button, and we're telling it to overflow text into each one so that all 3 are now connected. Now I'm going to throw some text into here. So now by doing that, they've overflowed into each other. So this is perfect. If you were to place your article in here, what you would need to do is go to File, Place, and then go find your Word document. So in this case, this is the Word document that I would flow into, and then hit Open. All right, and then you'll see a little drop shadow or a little icon with your article ready to go, and you just click inside the first text box. You do need to make sure that you've overflowed text into each box so that it all flows simultaneously. So what I want to give you time to do is draw 3 text boxes or 2 text boxes, set up your document first in a 2 or 3 column grid, and place your article inside. All right, so I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to do that. Are you guys, do you feel comfortable sharing your screen once you've done that? Perfect. So I'll start over. I'll just kind of rehash what we went over so that it's fresh. You're going to grab your type tool after you set up your 2 or 3 column grid. And then I'm going to just draw, at first I'm going to draw random text boxes, but I'm always staying within my gutter. Okay, I'm not going overlapping on my gutter. This double purple line means don't cross. Okay, so I'm just lining up between the inside purple line and the outside purple line. So now that I have all 3 drawn, I'm going to select the first one, click on that overflow button, and click inside the second one. Click the overflow button at the second one, and click inside the third text box. Now they're all connected. So now you click on the first text box and go to File, Place, find your article, and hit Open. And that should flow the text inside. In this case, I'm just filling it with some placeholder text for now because I don't have an article to flow into. Okay, so when you have your 2 or 3 column grid page laid out, let me know, or if you've got your article already flowed in, let me know. And if you get stuck, let me know. All right, Hillary, you are done. Will you mind sharing your screen? You can take a look at what you got. Wonderful, excellent, great job. Okay, so she flowed her text in perfectly. Very good, using your overflow button and then the stagger text boxes, good job, and then flowing your article in. Great work. That wasn't too difficult, I don't think. Okay, let's see who else. Anyone else want to share? If not, we'll go ahead and move on, but if you feel like you'd like to share, go for it. Good job, Hillary, and thank you for being willing. All right, well, let's move on then. So then the next thing we're going to need to know how to do is once we flowed our article in, we need to set it to a baseline grid, okay? What that means is it's going to line up all our lines of text so it's all on the same horizontal line all the way across the page. How do you do that? Well, you're going to go to your InDesign, top up here, InDesign Preferences, then click Grids. Did you see how I did that? InDesign, Preferences, and then you'll select Grids, okay? This pulls up your Preferences box, specifically your Grids Preferences box, and we're gonna be setting up our baseline grid. That's what I mean by this. And you deselect the grids and let's see. Okay, so the color for your baseline grid, you don't fancy blue, you can pick a different color like light gray. It just has to be something that you can recognize and see that's separate from your other text boxes that are going on. I'm gonna leave it light blue because that's defaulted color, I'm used to that. And then your start is usually whatever your margin is set to, okay? And that's usually when you're setting up your document, when you're setting up a new document, just pay attention to what your margin is, and then that will be your start line. Okay, so I believe mine is 3 picas, so we're gonna keep it there. We want it to be relative to the top of the page. So the baselines will start at the top of the page where my margin line is. Then the view threshold. This is important because you won't be able to see your baseline grid unless you've set this threshold very low. What this means is you won't be able to see the baseline grid until you're zoomed at 75%. So just put a low number like 25%. That should be, whoops, that should be just fine. We'll go back. 25%, just something low, because anything above that view threshold, you'll be able to see it, okay? And then the increment every. This is another increment that you have to pay attention to. You need to set this to whatever your leading is set to. So I'm gonna go back, hit cancel. I'm just gonna highlight my text and I'm gonna see under my character formatting controls that my leading is 14.4. So that's what I need to set my increment every to. So you need to pay attention once you formatted your text, what your leading value is so that you can go and adjust that under the grids. So I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna change this value to 14.4 and everything else stays the same. I'm gonna hit OK. And now I still can't see it. And so there's another thing that you can do if you can't see it. Go to View, Grids and Guides, and then click on Show Baseline Grid. You'll want to make sure that's checked. And there you go. You see my blue lines. The blue line starts at my margin, top margin line. It goes all the way down. Very, very nice. Now I'm going to zoom in here. And you'll notice that not all the letters are lining up on that baseline grid. You see the blue lines kind of going right through some of these. And I will see if I can grab my pencil tool to show you. If you'll notice here, there we go. So if you see here where I've drawn that the letters aren't lining up correctly, but if you look over here, they're a little bit off the baseline. They're not quite sitting on the baseline. And then these ones are floating somewhere in the middle of it. So they're all off and not lining up correctly. So we need to be able to adjust this so that it automatically basically adjusts itself to the baseline grid. But before we move on, I want you to get your baseline grid set up. So I'll back up a little bit. You go to your InDesign preferences, go to grids. You'll set your start at whatever your margin is when you set up your document. And then relative to the top page, and then increment every, you'll need to find out what your leading is, enter that exact value in, and then just put your view threshold at 25% so that you'll be able to see it no matter what. Then you'll hit OK and go to view. Make sure your grids and guides, your baseline is turned on, okay? So I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes to set that up. Let me know when you've done it and if you'd like to share your screen. Does anyone have any questions? Can't get yours to show? Okay, Hillary, have you gone to window, or I'm sorry, view, grids and guides and made sure the baseline is? Okay, so why don't you share your screen and we'll troubleshoot together. All right. Click on show baseline grid. There you go. Good job. Nice. So that's all set up. It looks like your start looks perfect. And you set it up to be, did you set up your grid value to be at 14.4, the increment every? Yeah, go back and check real quick because that will kind of affect things. Yep, perfect. So you did it right. You set it up correctly. Yeah, so even when you set it up correctly, you won't be able to see it unless you click on show baseline grid. And that's a common mistake. I make it all the time. I'm like, why is it not showing? And then I have to go remember to go make sure my view is on. So very good job. Good question. Anyone else running into some trouble, or is that pretty simple? Good to go. Okay, perfect. Then we will move on. So now, as you can see, our lines are not quite lined up to the base. They haven't snapped into place on the baseline grid. So here's what we need to do next. We select our text boxes, and I'm going to move my Zoom controls out of the way. And we're going to go to, click inside one of the text boxes and click on your paragraph formatting controls. Up here, it displays in my top left. And then there is align to baseline grid. There's a little icon that says align to baseline grid. The one that's selected right now is do not align to baseline grid, and we don't want that. We want it to align. So if we click that, that one automatically shifted. Did you see that? I'll zoom in so you can see it. By clicking on that, I'm going to click, highlight this one. Go to align baseline grid. And you see how it lined up perfectly with that blue baseline all the way through that first column. That's what we want. So I'm going to highlight everything and click on align to baseline grid. Now everything's snapped into place. Everything runs perfectly on that horizontal blue line, lines up in the exact same place, and that is what I want. Okay, so now there's no need for the staggered columns of text. We can go ahead and even them out, but I wanted to show you that's how you get them to align. So I want to give you a few minutes to try to get that down. So if you highlight your text and go to your character formatting controls right up here, and then click on align to baseline grid, and that should snap everything into place. And if you don't see that if you don't have that as default on your controls, if you go to Window, type in Tables, it's your Window drop-down menu, all the way down to Paragraph, and then it brings up your paragraph control settings right here, and then your align to baseline grid is right here. So you'll select that. All right, so let me know if you have any luck or have any questions. And if you'd like to share your screen, I'd love to see that you've got it down, because this is important. You will be graded on this. Did you line everything to your baseline grid? And I really like this because it's kind of the same concept as writing on note paper. We would never write a letter we'd never write with the letters in between the blue lines, right? We always use the blue lines as kind of our baseline to line up all of our letters anyway. So it's just like writing on line paper. We want everything to line up. All right, Hillary, good job. Would you like to share? Thanks for being my Vanna White today. Okay, so perfect. So you've zoomed it in, you've got it all lined up, and I can see that you clicked on your align to baseline grid. Very good. Well, that's half the battle with this assessment 3, really, is just kind of getting your text formatted. Good job, Hillary, and thank you for being willing to share. So this is like I said, half the battle is just getting your text to line up properly. But now let's line up our text. Now this is another thing I'm going to be looking for. When you're lining up your text, I don't want to see your text boxes staggered. I don't want to see a bunch of space here and then a little bit of space here and then a little bit of space there. I need everything to be lined up correctly. So how do we do that? Well, we make sure that our text box goes all the way down to our purple margin line. So I'm going to take my text box anchor, bring it all the way down. And now that they're lined to the baseline grid, it will actually snap into place no matter where I pull my text box. And then we're going to make sure that our text boxes are even, the same height, and that they line up at the same baseline. So I'm going to kind of bring this down so that they line up at the same baseline. All right, so I still have a little bit of space here on the bottom right, as you can see. And I'm going to grab my little pencil marker here so I can show you. So you see all this empty space here? What do you do when you see all that empty space? Well, you're going to need to align your columns, bring it down just a little bit, because this is not what I want to see. That's no. Okay, so this is what you'll need to do. Grab all 3 by holding down the shift button and selecting each one. This will allow you to move them as one object instead of 3 separate objects. So again, you hold down the shift button and select each one, and now you can move them down. So now I'm going to just move them down one line at a time. And as you can see, by doing that, that allowed me to line up my text. So now they're all end at the same place and they all begin at the same place. Now, there may be a situation where you won't end exactly at the end, you won't be able to end exactly at the same place. However, you have to get as close as you can, okay? Because we can't have a big gap of space at the end of the paragraph, all right? So I want you to practice lining up your text boxes to the bottom margin line so that they all line up together the same point, the bottom. And I want you to make sure that they're roughly the same size. They all start at the same point and they all try to end at the same point. So I want you to do that. And if you feel comfortable sharing, I'd love to see it. But this is another thing you'll be graded on. So I'll give you about 2 minutes to do that. Just get it lined up so it looks like this. Now, if you don't want to see your baseline grid and you want to kind of see what it looks like without all the busy lines, you can hit W on your keyboard, and that toggles the view, your preview view, and what you're working on. So you can kind of see it clean. And then you hit W, and now you can see the lines, so that'll help. Yeah, you just hold down Shift and click on each box. So you'll hold down Shift and click on the first box, then the second box, then the third box. And that way, you can move them and scale them up and down. But it's very important that you try to get them to end at the same place. You want the text boxes to start and end at the same place, and you want the text to roughly end at the same place. Because we want to preserve that baseline grid, that horizontal flow of text. Are there any questions so far about this assessment 3? All right, good. I'm glad it's pretty straightforward. Ashley does have a question. Do we add all the text because she has more than 700 words? That's a good question. No, you don't have to add all of it. For your final project, you will. So you can just add some of it, make it end in an appropriate place. And let me just double check the instructions. 700 words should fit on one page, actually, if you just shrink down the font. Maybe try 8-point font. I wouldn't go lower than 8-point font, but anywhere between 8 and 12-point font, just say 8 and 10-point font, you should be okay. So try, and if not, if your article's just too long, then you can cut some of it. That's just fine. Good question. Thank you for asking. For the final project, we'll have more to work with. So your 700 word count will actually come in handy because those who had a shorter article will probably have to go find more content. So that'll pay off in the end for you. But for this assessment, it's just a one-page deal. So just whatever you can fit on the one page. So with the formatting, now that we've got our 3 columns, there's also something else that we need to do. We need to set up a headline. Now that usually the headline is just like your grand opening invitation. Headline goes here. It's whatever you named your article as. And you'll give it you'll kind of format it. And don't be afraid to use a double line. You'll need to kind of tighten leading where you need, but you have that space. Okay. Now, instead of doing headline goes and then have here all by itself at the bottom, I'm just choosing to use goes here at the bottom so that I don't have a widow all by itself. So we're going to highlight this. I'm going to increase the size because I have all that space at the top. Don't be afraid to use a big headline. Okay, and that looks appropriate. You could even give it a different color if you wanted. Red and black look really nice together. Give it some red. So my headline goes here. Then you'll probably want a sub-headline or a subtitle where this is the summary of your article, or maybe the first couple of opening lines of your intro. And really the sub-headline should probably just be a line or two, just summing up your article. And then you can format this as well. And I'm going to put this under here and kind of line it up. It's not as big as your headline, but it's kind of the same concept. That is, there's some hierarchy here. It is, just supposed to stand out. And then you want your byline. Your byline, and this does need to be lined up on one of the baselines. I'm going to move this down. Okay, and then you'll need your byline. And the byline is just who is the author. I am the author. This doesn't need to stand out too much. It just needs to be nice and small. But I want enough space between my byline, and I'm going to zoom in because I want this to line up on my baseline grid. Okay, I want to make sure these line up on my baseline grid. All right, so I've got my byline can be small. I'm going to make this maybe 8-point font. I like that. Okay, and I'm going to make sure everything lines up on my left margin line. All right, so there we go. There's your basic typesetting. Now, another thing you can do, if you want to, go a little extra mile, I do believe that this would help, is usually when you're laying out an article, whether it's a magazine or a book, you'll notice that they have something called a drop cap. And what that does is it just kind of makes the first letter of your starting paragraph just a little bit larger and shows the reader where to start on the article. So we're going to highlight this. It also serves as a visual accent to your layout and can add some color and some visual interest as well. So this is a nice thing to add. So just highlight the first letter of the first paragraph that you've got, first line of the paragraph, and then you go over here, you can see on your drop cap number of lines, just pick 2 or 3. You don't need to go any further than that. You can even give your drop cap a different color, preferably matching your color scheme, whatever you've got going on there. And that adds a nice visual interest. Now, another thing that we're going to go over, which is in our 19 rules of typography, is that if you have a new paragraph, you probably have several paragraphs within your article, that you either choose to indent the new paragraph, and no hard return, or you give it a hard return and no indent, like this. Okay? Now, another thing we need to know is that this paragraph was given a hard return, but there's an orphan over here, widow and orphan, and we don't want 2 words just dangling alone on that line. So we need to do what we can to try to get it to the other line. Now you can either adjust your font size a little bit, or you can adjust your paragraph text boxes and just kind of bring them up to the next line and try to get it so that all of the paragraphs line up correctly like that. Okay, and I've got a lot of widows here as well. Yeah, you could turn off hyphenate, absolutely. That's also very important. If you go to a window, that won't fix your orphan and widow problem, but it will keep your words from being hyphenated. But that brings me to another point, Crystal, so that's really good that you brought it up. When you highlight these and go to Window, go to Type in Tables, Paragraph, you have an option to deselect hyphenate. You don't want that checked. What that does is it hyphenates words and wraps them around, and it kind of, it's preferred if you just take it off. So you do need to watch out for any words that now wrap around to the bottom, but you want to be able to make sure that it's all formatted correctly. Personal preference, I like just indenting them and not doing a hard return, because sometimes when you do a hard return, it messes with the formatting. So it's just a little cleaner looking if you can just indent them like that. All right, so that's pretty clean. If you have subtitles, you could add, like little subheadings throughout the article, you could do that to add some visual interest and break up the large body of text. But overall, this is about what you would need to know. I don't think you need to have anything else. Oh, you'll need to know how to do character styles and paragraph styles. So I'll get into that. Well, maybe I should just cover it since we're in here. Are there any questions so far about what we've covered here? No questions? Okay, good. So we've got some of you are pretty comfortable with this. This is good. Basically, what I'm looking for is a basic typesetting. This is a basic typesetting exercise. Do you have your basic elements? Headline, subtitle, byline, and then did you lay out and format your text correctly? And it needs to be clean, even, no dangling words, no widows and orphans. Please watch out for that. And just make sure that everything fits within your margin line. Make sure you're aligned to baseline grid. Another thing that you're going to be graded on are paragraph styles. Have you guys worked with paragraph styles before and character styles? Okay, you don't think so? Okay, that's fine. We'll go over that. I probably want to shift to the lecture real quick, and then we'll go over it after our break. We'll give you guys a break in InDesign for just a minute. I do need to cover some things, and then we'll go over our styles. Well, I guess we're in here already. Okay, let's go to paragraph styles. We'll do this real quick. This is important. If you go to Window, click on Styles, and then click on Paragraph Styles, you'll pull up your paragraph style. And what this does is this formats all the body of text that's within your paragraph. If you highlight a paragraph, and if you click New, you can rename it, and this can be your body text. Will be my body text. Now this comes in handy. What paragraph styles are and character styles are, they're basically saved formatting. So when you're laying out multiple pages of text, or if you were laying out a book or a flyer, several flyers that needed the same formatting, or an article that was very long, you wouldn't want to have to format your text or each paragraph every time you're laying out. So that would get really time consuming. So this is a time saver if you learn how to do it properly. So if you give it the name, and then based on no paragraph style, let's see. And then this is where you'll go in and it just says style settings, no paragraph style, grid alignment, baseline. It kind of tells you everything that it's got. You hit OK, and that's your body text. So next time I wanted to format something, I'll put in some random text in this text box. And I'm going to change the font. Let's see. And I think it's a different size. So I'm going to highlight this text and click on body text. Now it automatically formatted it to the font that I was using, the font size I was using. It aligned it to the baseline grid. It also adjusted the leading and the color that I was using. So this is really helpful. So all you need to do is highlight a portion of your text that you want to, save as formatting. Click on click on New to start a new paragraph style. Give it a name. This could be headline, it could be sub-headline, it could be byline, it could be whatever you're using. Then this isn't based on anything, and then just hit OK. Now you can kind of do a test that if you added some text that was in a different head, like if I wanted to change my headline to that body text. If I click on body text, it now formatted it perfectly. What if I wanted to do new? This is my headline. And hit OK. And it tells you down here, it's Helvetica New, it's bold, size 99, the leading is 78, the color is red, hit OK. So now if I wanted to turn my subheadline into use the same formatting that I did with my headline, I'll highlight my text and click on headline. And now it formats it exactly the way I have set it up. So it's just important to know how to set it up and how to use it. So I'll give you a few minutes to do that. Yeah, it's very convenient, especially when you're laying out multiple pages of text and you don't want to have to go back and say, okay, this is Times New Roman, size 12, leadings 14. It just keeps things consistent. So this is just a good way of keeping your content consistent throughout. So go ahead and take a few moments to set up your basic paragraph styles, maybe just one or two, and just practice. All you need to do is highlight this portion of text that you want to save the formatting of. Now be careful, if you already added a drop cap and you highlight this paragraph, what do you think is going to happen when you go and save this paragraph style? What do you think is going to happen? It's going to include the drop cap character. You see that? So be sure that you, unless you do that on purpose, that you don't grab the paragraph with the drop cap, okay? You just want to grab a paragraph that doesn't have any other formatting other than the body text itself. Now, also be careful, if you're going to go make a change in that body text, it will also apply the change to the saved paragraph style. So if you don't want that change saved, you need to make sure that you're not selected on it, okay? Are there any questions about the paragraph style? Character style is very similar too. Go to character. Oops, it was already up. I didn't see it. Character style. So character style is kind of similar too, that if you wanted it based on something, you could use it. Let me highlight this. So this would be like a drop cap situation. If I clicked on character style, oops, click on new. This would be my drop cap. And hit OK. Now, if I wanted to do a drop cap on this paragraph, I just click on drop cap. Oops. Let's see. Oh, okay, I see what it is. So, sorry. So the character one won't copy the drop cap. The paragraph style will. What this will do is it just basically will format your individual text. So it'll copy color, font, and font size. So if you wanted to save something individually, you could format that through the character style. I do prefer paragraph style because it's basically caters to a more large body of text, but either one is fine if you set it up, but you do have to have one or the other. Are there any questions? We'll touch a little bit more on this later, but I just wanted to show you, kind of demo how to set it up. That's right, Crystal. So Crystal's saying this is specifically a text-only document, no lines or additions of any kind. No, this is a basic typesetting exercise, just like Assessment 2 was. You will have to have these elements, but this is just bare bones to kind of get you ready to format text. I'm going to be concerned with, are you formatting your body text correctly? Did you have your baseline grid set up? Are columns even? Are words ending and lining up the same place? And then just this alone will get you a good grade, okay? There's no design elements that need to be made here. It's just basic formatting text. Did you use a paragraph or a character style? Do you know how to set them up? This is going to help you because this is going to transition us into our final project. And in our final project, we'll need to do lines and more visual interest and graphics and stuff like that. But for this assignment only, this is it. No, I'm glad you're asking, Crystal, and I guarantee you someone else is asking who's watching this at home. So questions are welcome, and it's good to clear it up. Do check the grading rubric, though. It will be updated tonight. It's up already, but I'm going to go ahead and add one or two more things that we were talking about today. So just go check it tonight after lecture, and it should be up and ready to go. So just make sure you have those elements on your page, and if it looks like this and it looks clean and laid out, great, that's perfect. Okay, any questions before we move on to the next assignment? All right, if there's no questions, we'll go ahead and stop the share. I'm going to jump right into, let's see, maybe we should keep the desktop. I'm going to pull up Illustrator. I'm going to kind of shift gears here. Here's the portrait assignment. Well, I'm sorry, talk about scattered brain. I'm going to do a PowerPoint, and then I'll jump right into our Illustrator, because I do need to kind of preface this before we get too far involved into the second assignment. So we'll go to our PowerPoint. We'll talk a little bit about the typography rules that you're going to be held accountable for, graded on. And then I'll show you what to expect for the portrait assignment. And this one is going to be pretty simple and very fun. I hope you have fun with it. Okay. Okay. So I don't know if you've heard of these before, but these are kind of the 19 standard rules. We covered a few of them in the other, I should say I think last week's lecture, we covered some of them. We kind of skimmed over some, but I want to touch on them individually. First one. All right, rule number 1, you want to use a classic typeface. All right. Examples when we talk about classic are basically the ones that you are basically on your approved list. So for optimum legibility, we talked about legibility. You want to choose a classic, time-tested typeface. No fancy cursive, curly fonts. We want to avoid that. If you'll look at these examples, this one is what not to do at the top, and this one at the bottom is what is okay to use. Typefaces should be drawn and crafted with consistency among characters and kind of exhibit a highly legible proportion. So the reason why this one isn't used up top is because it's not very easy to read. Usually we like to use serif fonts for large bodies of text. It usually helps it read clearer. Rule number 2, I want you to use maximum of 2 types of typefaces. You saw in my example that I just laid out in that assessment 3, I used Helvetica, a sans serif for the headline and subheadline, and then for the body text, I used a serif font. So make sure that you use it appropriately, but as you can see in this top example right here, what's going on here in the top example? Why does this not work? Why is this ineffective, the first example? Why do you think? You can't read it very well, that's right. And in fact, after Abraham Lincoln, it's kind of hard to figure out what that word is unless you kind of zoom in and focus on it. Because they're using a non-classic typeface, this is very difficult to read. And then they've got about 4 different fonts going on here on this layout, which makes it very confusing, and it doesn't unify the design as a whole. If you look at this one at the bottom, they've only used 2. They used a sans serif and a serif font, and because of that contrast, it does work, and it makes it look clean. It's easy to read. It's kind of visually interesting too. So the main reason for using more than one typeface is to create emphasis, or maybe to separate one part of text from another, like the headline from the body text. But when you've got too many different typefaces being used, the reader's really unable to determine what is going on and what's not important. So it's important that we just stick with 2 and use one as kind of the highlighter text. Like what are you going to use to make elements stand out? All right, rule number 3, use typefaces that are different in form. So we talked about before, why is example number 1 incorrect? Yeah, they're both serif, right, Crystal? They're both serif. And rule number 3 states that we need to use different typefaces. Rule number 2 told us how many typefaces are we supposed to stick to. So if we're supposed to use different typefaces, according to rule number 3, in rule number 2, how many are we supposed to use? Maximum of 2 typefaces. So only use 2. So rule number 3 says use different ones, but rule number 2 says just use 2. So in this case, we've got the good example at the bottom, a sans serif coupled with a serif font, and this works. So again, this is to create emphasis. It's important to avoid any ambiguity caused by combining too many types that are too similar in appearance, and it's very boring. There's not much visual interest. So just kind of avoid using Times New Roman and another serif font together, or Universe and Frutiger, or Times New Roman and Platino. Anything that's serif and serif, avoid that combination. You want a sans serif and a serif. So like my example, I used Helvetica and then Minion Pro. Those were the 2 fonts that I used. All right, rule number 4, we touched on this during week 1, using upper and lower case letters. Why is the example at the top incorrect? Yeah, it makes it's so hard to read all caps. Text set in all capital letters really severely retards reading. It doesn't flow, everything kind of blends together. So using upper and lowercase letters for optimum readability, you really want to just stick with the lowercase letter. So as you can see in the example here, everything is lowercase, so this really reads well. It's easier to read. So text set entirely in uppercase letters form kind of a monotonous rectangular shape, and it doesn't guide the eye very well. So uppercase letters can successfully be used in display type like headlines. That's okay. Or maybe type that's above 16 points, but in short and sweet cases, but not for body text. So yeah. And how would you feel too if you got a text in all caps? It doesn't really translate. So we really want to make sure that we keep things in lowercase, okay? All right, so rule number 5, we're blowing through these. I want you to use an average point size for type text. Now, I laid out body text. Your body text should be, a good rule of thumb is from 8 to 12 points. So keep your body text with your assessment 3 laid out to about 8 to 12 points. So if you have a larger, bigger article with more words, use the 8, be more closer to the 8-point font. Don't go below that. But if you're, if you need to fill space and you have a shorter article, don't go above 12 points for the body text. And always make sure your headline is much, much larger. So just be sure to remember that sizes are based on the X height of the letters. They can appear different from one typeface to another. So just make sure that you kind of gauge, you pick a good font that will do the job. And rule number 6 says you need to use minimum type sizes and weights. Okay, what is going on with the example above? You want to, yeah, the boldness, right. So you want to avoid using this isn't a very good example because I don't think they should have used this too much, but avoid using too many different type sizes and weights at the same time. So really the bottom example should have just been 1 or 2 blue words, but that should have been it. This wasn't executed correctly, but some experts recommend using no more than 2 sizes, 1 for the display title and 1 for the text type. So you want to make sure that you are consistent and you're not using too many crazy sizes and weights, because that too can get confusing. Rule number 7 says use text types of book weight. Okay, so in body text, you don't want to bold everything. Otherwise, nothing stands out. So if you emphasize everything, then nothing stands out. So you want to make sure that nothing is emphasized, and you can emphasize the 1 or 2 things that you want to stand out. So use types of book weight. Avoid typefaces appearing too heavy or too light. Usually using the regular or the book style within a font is appropriate, especially for body text. You can bold a headline or a subheadline. That's just fine. That creates emphasis. But text typefaces that are too light can't really be distinguished from their backgrounds. So it makes it hard to read. And even when they print, it prints too light. Sometimes you can't read it. So in typefaces that are too heavy, on the contrary, Counterforms diminish in size, making them less legible, especially when everything is bolded and everything is emphasized. So you just want to use it sparingly. Good job. All right. Are there any questions? Okay, rule number 8, use typefaces of medium width. What does that mean? Well, don't distort your text for one. Don't squeeze the text. Don't use type families that include condensed and extended faces that fall within accepted proportional norms. You want to use typefaces of medium width, okay? This one here at the bottom is a little bit exaggerated, but rather than distorting text by stretching or squeezing the text to get it to be wide, you want to use type families that include condensed and extended families that fall within kind of the accepted proportional norm. So though you can adjust this in the character formatting controls, you definitely want to avoid stretching or squeezing your text boxes, okay? Rule number 9, use consistent letter and word spacing. The one on the top here, what do you notice about the one on the top? Yeah, lots of space, really uneven amounts of space. So not only are there gaps in the paragraph, but the letters, the words are actually unevenly spaced. The spaces that are there, those gaps are uneven. So it just looks like a hodgepodge mess. How do you avoid this? Well, you use a left justify alignment for one. Don't use any other alignment in the body text. You want a left justify alignment. And then just make sure that you're using a font that's easy to read. So letters should flow gracefully and naturally into words and words into lines, just like the bottom example. This means that word spacing should increase proportionally as letter spacing increases so that everything is consistent and flows evenly. So just use a left justify alignment when in doubt. Rule number 10, use appropriate line lengths, okay? Usually your text box will kind of default to whatever width you have it at, so that's nice, but don't put breaks where they don't need to go. Don't put hard returns where they don't need to go. Just reading overly short lines creates choppy eye movements, and this can tire and annoy the reader, so it doesn't read as well as one might think. So when you're working with text type, a maximum of about 70 characters is a good rule of thumb. 10 to 12 words per line is thought to be most acceptable. Now, you don't need to go counting your letters, but if you've already got, InDesign kind of does the job for you. If you set up your 2 or 3 column grid, that's all you need to worry about. Just make sure your text box is the same width of that column, and then everything will fall into place. But this is usually for people who don't know how to format it, but InDesign will help fix that. Another mistake that we kind of make is the line spacing. Is it readable? For text type, you want to use line spacing that easily carries the eye from one line to the next. What's wrong with the example at the top? And then I'm going to actually go to Crystal's question. Crystal asked, when is it okay to use the middle type of justification? It's a really good question, Crystal. To be honest, you can use the center alignment, or if you're talking about I know what formatting you're talking about. It's the one where it spaces everything out. That one is seldom used, really. It's justify with the last line aligned center is what it is. It's only appropriate if the font that you're working with will align properly. But about 9 times out of 10, I like to tell my students to avoid it because it doesn't offer you anything that the center alignment offers. Now, the only thing that it does is it will center everything proportionately on the left and the right, kind of more of a boxy centered look. But there's nothing wrong with using the center alignment and the left justify alignment, but don't use I think it's called justify with last line aligned center. That's what it's called. So don't use that one. I would avoid it. it's not, there's no like right or wrong. It's just if your design happens to need that kind of a look, then go for it. But in laying out body copy and in the typesetting exercise, I definitely say avoid it. So there's a time and a place. It just, this isn't the time or the place. So, but that's a good question. And yes, you're right. The lines are too squished together. On the top example here, what would we use to fix that? What tool would we use to fix all those letters are too squished together? What do you think we would use? Yeah, well, close. Tracking will space out the letters, the space between each letter, but we want the lines. We want space between the lines. So what would we use? It's the other one. Yeah, you're letting, right? You're kerning. So you would probably want to adjust the letting space between the lines of text. Good job, guys. So the lines of type with too little space between them, what it does is it slows the reading process, so the eye is forced to take in several lines at a time. But by adding one to 4 points of space between lines of type, just depending on the specific typeface, the readability can be improved dramatically. As you can see here at the bottom, there's like about 2 or 3 points of letting that were adjusted on this, and this gave some really nice breathing room to the layout. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. Make sure that your line spacing is readable. Here's a good rule of thumb. You want about a 2-point difference from your font size. So if you're using a 10-point font, what letting point size would you use? 12, right, Hillary, good job. So if you're using a 12-point font, what letting point size would you use? 14, excellent. So just a 2-point letting, a 2-point difference between the letting and the font size is appropriate. So that's the rule of thumb I use. So if you're confused and you're laying things out, now you can adjust accordingly. However, usually even in default settings in design, it's about a roughly 2-point difference. All right, good job. And rule 12, use the flush left type alignment. So again, this is going back to our previous rule when we were talking about don't use the other alignments, especially when you're laying out articles. For optimum readability, we're using a flush left, ragged right type alignment. So although in special situations, like Crystal was saying, other type alignments are appropriate, like flush right, ragged left, centered, and justified, these are acceptable, but the trade-off is always a loss. So the loss in readability is the case. So we really want to make sure we use a left justify, ragged right. As you can see in the bottom example, it's so clean on the left side. Everything, all the letters line up and start at the same place. So that's what we're going for. That's why we use left alignment. All right, so this will be the last rule, and then we're going to take a 10-minute break. I'll come back, finish up the rules, and we'll jump right into our Portrait Illustrator design tutorial. So rule 13, create effective rags. Again, this just talks about striving for consistent rhythmic rags, meaning wherever it defaults is going to be appropriate. Don't add your own or try to get creative with it. Just leave it alone. If it's defaulted in InDesign, it's going to be just fine. Rule 14, clearly indicate paragraphs. Just make sure it's clear. Now, here's the thing. Do you do a hard return like you see here and then indent the next paragraph? True or false? Do you do a hard return and then indent? No, what do you do? What's the rule? One or the other, absolutely. So the 2 most common ways of indicating paragraphs or indicating a new paragraph is about to start is either indenting or inserting an additional space between the paragraphs. But it's one or the other, exactly. A lot of students will do both. They'll give that extra space between paragraphs, and then they'll indent the new paragraph, and it not appropriate, especially in layout and design. So we just like to say with this rule, just indicate the paragraph, but you only have to do it once. Okay? And we'll go ahead and stop here. We'll go to our 10-minute break. We'll finish up the last 4 rules, and then we'll start talking about our portrait Illustrator typeface assignment that we've got. That's super fun. Go ahead and pull up Illustrator so when we return, we can jump right into it. Are there any questions before we move on? All right. Okay, well, you guys have been great. We'll go ahead and give you guys a chance to stretch your legs, get a drink, get Illustrator launched, and then we will come back in 10 minutes. All right, guys, we are back. Let's jump back into the last portion of our lecture and get into the fun part. So let's talk about Rule 16. Did we talk about 15? Let's see. Okay. We briefly touched on this before, avoiding widows and orphans. So what that means is a widow is a word or a very short line at the beginning of, at the beginning or end of a paragraph. So here at the end, what word is the widow in this case? You guys tell me. The paragraph, right. So the word paragraph, it's just a lonely little word sitting at the end of the paragraph. That word needs to be wrapped around there. There's a few ways that you can do that. You can either extend the width of the text box. We don't like doing that because we're trying to stay proportionate. So another thing you can do is maybe avoid the tracking or adjust the tracking a little bit, or maybe adjusting the maybe the drop cap in this case is causing that widow, so maybe shrink it down a little bit. So there's a few things that are going on there that you can adjust to avoid that widow there, but be aware of that as you're laying out your article, not to have widows or very, very short lines at the end of the paragraph. An orphan is a single syllable at the end of a word. So usually that's caused by a hyphen. When your hyphenated box is checked, it'll hyphenate a word and wrap that syllable to the next line. Just turning off the hyphenate box should help fix that. And then all you have to worry about are widows that are dangling. Rule 16, and we're at the home stretch. Emphasize elements within the text. This is very important. When you have large bodies of text, it's important to kind of highlight things. This will apply more to the final project as we move into next week. You won't need to worry about this so much for the assessment 3, but it is important to emphasize elements, and there's a few ways we can do that. What are some ways we can emphasize elements in our layout? What are some ways that you did with your grand opening invitation, so that everything didn't look the same? What did you do? Yeah, you bolded something, maybe italicized it, you used some color to make it pop or emphasize certain things, use small caps, use capitals, light type, regular type, bold type. Yeah, larger text, definitely size and weight all contribute. So you can use these different these different elements. Just never overdo it. It's always good to kind of stick with 2 or 3 different things and then use that consistently throughout. So the minimum means for maximum results is basically the idea here. So rule 17, never distort the type. This is super important, and this usually occurs when someone is trying to resize a text box or an object without knowing how to properly do that. Remember, if we hold down the shift button as we click and drag the anchor points, that will help us constrain the proportions. Also, just kind of avoid stretching or squishing. Well-designed typefaces exhibit visual qualities that really make them readable, and when you're kind of messing around with the proportions a little bit, it compromises the integrity. So that's why we say never distort the type. Just be aware that you're resizing proportionately. Always align letters and words on the baseline. This is important. We learned how to do this. I showed you how to set up your baseline grid. Letters are designed to coexist side by side on an invisible baseline. And so it's important to make sure that things set up. Now this phrase, English is not Chinese, here at the top of the example, each letter is sitting on a different baseline. Whereas on the second example here, English is not Chinese, this line sits on the invisible baseline. Each letter sits on the same one. So there's no staggering, there's no unevenness. Everything looks nice and clean and it's easy to read. So that's why I taught you how to do that. We're talking about contrast here. When you're getting into color, this would have been important probably for your last assignment, but make sure you're using maximum contrast between the type and the background. This shows you a percentage of the contrast between the white background and the blue text. Too little contrast, as you can see, the lighter you go in hue or saturation, or even a combination of these, can result in type that's very difficult, if not impossible to read. So you want to be careful when you're using photos or texture behind the text. A lot of you, well, not a lot of you, some of you had some busy backgrounds that really made it hard to read the text because the colors were so dark and so involved that it was hard to read the text on top of it. So it's important to have a very dark font color if you're going to use a very light background. So just think exact opposite. If you use a very dark color, you want a very light background. So it's just kind of common sense here, but this is the last rule of our 19 rules of typography. And so we will skip ahead to, I just want to remind you of this. The majority of you have this down. Some students did use this, but that's usually the ones that aren't watching the lectures. But the 3 deadly weapons of design are stroked fonts. Please avoid that. I know it's tempting. If you have to stroke your font or put a stroke on your font, that usually means that your background is too busy and the font color is too light. So it's one of those things. If you have to add the stroke to make it stand out, that means that your font is either too light or your background is too busy. So you kind of want to adjust one of those before you're tempted to add the stroke. But avoid that. It's not professional. It looks very amateurish. And so it's what separates the pros from the I guess the beginners. Drop shadows. This is important to avoid, especially in beginning stages of design and layout. It's not necessary for logo design. Actually kind of does the opposite of what you think. Drop shadows are usually used to create emphasis or make it pop off the page. Whereas in logo design, it actually convolutes the design and makes it harder to recognize and see. So in logo design, you want very simple, clean layout, and drop shadow is not clean. Same with body text and layouts. You want to avoid drop shadows because it just makes it very hard to read. It adds an extra element, almost like a mirror image of what you're reading, and if it's not done or executed properly, it's actually no good. So in this case, we just say avoid it altogether. And then the gradients. Well, Crystal mentioned it means we're back in the 90s. Let's talk about gradients. Sometimes that takes me back to the 90s. Gradients are okay if they're used with 2 colors that are very similar on the color palette. So a dark blue and a light blue, that can add a little bit of dimension if it's done tastefully. But when you start adding the rainbow, like an orange and a green and a yellow, and you do this really funky psychedelic gradient, then it doesn't work so much. So you want to, I would say, avoid gradients altogether, but maybe just try to keep it to 2 colors that are very close on the color wheel. It's just supposed to add some shading, not 2 different colors. So just keep that in mind. That's also important. So I just want to touch on that because that's usually a problem as we move through. Let's do, all right, these are kind of fun. Let's look at this real quick. This is what can happen if you don't pay attention to detail. So I tell my students all the time, pay attention to detail, look over your assignment before you submit it. It's very important. Let's look at this. What is the first thing that you notice? What did this designer fail to do? Yes, no. Yeah, misspelled a word, and sadly this became a public mistake. So not spell checking properly can have some very, I don't know, big consequences. Please spell check your work and make sure that your headlines are spelled correctly, especially because they're the largest things that are on your page, but also body text. A simple spell check in Word should do just fine. What about this one? This one's interesting. Any comments on this one? Tasteless sugar, yeah, we don't know what it's saying because there's no commas or periods no punctuation basically to separate or to distinguish which words are supposed to be grouped together. This can really be confusing to the reader. So we're not quite sure how to read it. They're lacking punctuation there. Okay, this one's even worse. This one could have been avoided. Yeah. If they just added a little bit more space between words. So when we're emphasizing tracking and leading, this is very important. You definitely want to make sure that you have correct spacing on your words. Things can I guess, be interpreted incorrectly. And then let's look at this. This is a shame. This breaks my heart, actually. we're talking about keeping things consistent. This is what happens when you don't. If you'll notice, the pictures don't even line up. One doesn't even have a picture. I'm not quite sure what happened here with Warner Brothers and their designer, but the logos don't line up. I guess I should say the pictures don't line up. The headlines are all different sizes and in different order. So nothing is consistent here. And so it's very important to emphasize consistency. Yeah, and these are great movies. So it's a shame. Okay, what about this one? We're talking about spelling mistakes. What about something that could be easily overlooked? Do you guys see it? Yeah, so they didn't even do it right. First, second, third, fourth. I think they hit copy paste one too many times on this one. So it's okay to copy and paste elements, but just make sure you're formatting them correctly. All right, and this one, there's just no logic to it. If this was going to be an acronym for something, maybe they would have explained it a little bit better, but this just really doesn't even make sense. So um, I always say design with purpose. If you're going to stack letters or stack letters for your logo, or if you're going to do something a certain way, have purpose in it. Don't just say, this could be interesting. It needs to send a message or create something with the negative or positive space. There has to be purpose to what you're doing or a clear message of what you're doing. And in this case, there was not. Okay, what about this one out of Orange County Magazine? Make sure you're positioning your elements in a way that it doesn't cover up important information. Yeah, it's so sad too. So in this case, the Where magazine was covered up in such a way that it kind of interpreted differently. And so we need to make sure that when we're placing elements that we're doing them correctly and giving them enough space. So we need to kind of look over everything. Basically, attention to detail is important. Here's a good idea gone wrong. Sometimes us designers, we think we have a good idea, and then when it doesn't translate always as well as we thought. We kind of saw it going a little bit differently. In this case, grapefruit, by eliminating the G and not really making this slice of grapefruit look like a G, this really read wrong. So it just probably would have been better to keep the G there. So it's sad, but these are mistakes that happen even to the best of us. So that's why in this class, we're emphasizing attention to detail. All right, well, that was just a little bit of fun, but let's get into another fun assignment, okay? Here's some text illustrations that were submitted by some students in the past, by designers or I guess portraits of designers, important people. Using only typography, only the characters in their type that they chose to write their paper about. You can pick any type. You're not limited to just the one you wrote your paper about, but make sure it's from the approved list. And it's kind of interesting what they came up with. What about this one? This one's pretty interesting. We're not doing structures or buildings, but this is another example of how styles and sizes can create texture, value, shading, emphasis. So even though we're not doing structures or buildings, we're just doing typefaces, it's important to look. Now, sizes and styles can create texture and value. Now, this is a more complicated version. The one on the left is usually created in Photoshop, so we're not going to be doing anything that convoluted. The one on the right, though, is a student submission, I believe, or maybe not. I think this was grabbed from Google. I can't remember. But still, I've seen similar designs like this by students who kind of really got intense with their design, and this was really cool. So it doesn't have to be a portrait of you. It could be a portrait of someone online. It can be whatever. But this is kind of the idea. Now you can get as complicated as the one on the right or as simple as the one or as one of these on this page. Some can get very simple. And I've seen them even simpler. It's just important to have some kind of a portrait illustration. So I want you to have fun with this assignment. I will jump into Illustrator now to show you how you can approach it. We're going to grab Illustrator and just give me one moment here. I had one other simple tutorial to show you that I think we'll have a lot of fun with. And I'm hoping we have time to do it. All right, so first things first, you're going to need an 8.5 by 11 page. So if you go to File, select New, go ahead and get Illustrator pulled up as well. And do this along with me if you'd like. File, New, typical. Thinking, it's deciding if it wants to work. And then set up your document. You'll just need an 8.5 by 11. You don't need anything else. I'm just going to do 2 artboards. You only need 1. I'm doing 2 because I'm going to do 2 demos. Okay. And in the first one, I'm going to show you how to do this one. I don't know if we have any Star Wars fans out there, but we're going to learn how to do a Yoda portrait just using typography. And hopefully after this assignment, it won't seem quite as scary. All right, so in this case, at the bottom of this layout, it tells you what fonts are being used. There's several different kind of fonts going on here, but in our assignment, we do need to pick one and can only use one throughout. So we're gonna be a little limited, but I still think we can make it work. So in this case, I'm gonna draw parentheses. And by going to type, create outlines, this will make them very easy to manipulate. I'm going to angle it, kind of stretch it. I'm going to copy it and rotate it. Now I can either choose to put this example behind my work so that I can position everything correctly, which actually might not be a bad idea. In this case, I'm going to bring down the opacity a little bit. I can still see it, but I want my my designs to kind of stand out. Kind of get them to roughly the same size. All right, next thing I need are brackets. I'm going to go to Type, Create Outlines. Hold down Shift as I expand. This will allow me to resize proportionately. This might need to be rotated. Once I get it roughly the right size, I'm going to copy it and then kind of flip it around. This might need to be adjusted slightly on the left. All right, and then I just need another parentheses. Go to Type, Create Outlines. Hold down Shift. This allows me to kind of rotate it. Hold down Shift when you're rotating, and that will lock it into a 90-degree angle for you. And his eyebrows are kind of tilted at an angle, so I'm going to try to get them as true to life as possible. I'm going to zoom in here so I can get even closer. So you can kind of get the idea of how this is supposed to look. And already he's coming together. Thanks, Hillary. Thanks for coming. I'm going to copy this, bring it down, hold down Shift and kind of shrink it. Gonna rotate that. Next, I need the eyes. We'll do that. Object, create outlines. Oops. Hold down Shift as you resize. Okay, and then for the nose, you need a D. Type create outlines. Hold, just kind of rotate, hold down Shift. Hold down Shift to resize. Makes it easier to grab. And then in this case, I'm going to kind of stretch it out to format. I need another parenthesis for the cheekbones. I'm going to kind of stretch this one out. I'm going to copy that one and place it here for the left cheekbone. All right, and then I just need a line. Oops, select it, type create outlines, hold down Shift. Kind of allows me to line it up. And then one last parenthesis, and this will finish my design. So as you can see, just using a few simple characters, you can kind of create a really cool effect. I'm not going to get it exact just because it's not the same character. But I'm going to delete this, zoom out, and now I've got my Yoda face. I'm going to highlight all the elements and hit Command G, and that will group them. So now I've got my Yoda, and then here at the bottom, you'll just type in who it is and then what font you used. So I used Myriad Pro, regular. Now you can use bold or italic or whatever you need to get the effect that you need, but in this case I didn't bold anything. So regular 12 point. Well, actually that's not important. You just need the font and who it is. And this is part of it. You know, this is all you need to do really. Are there any questions about how I got this look or how to achieve this just by kind of matching the characters? Okay, so this is a very simplified version of our assignment. So you could do something this simple, or you can do something a little bit more complex if you wanted to try your hand at it. I'm going to show you how to take a picture from online and how you can get how you can create this effect. So I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to grab my, whoops. I'm going to just draw another artboard so I can do it side by side. Okay. I'm going to delete all this text so you can see how I did it. I just grabbed this picture from on Google Images, so you could probably find it too. I just Googled Vin Diesel. Now in this case, I'm going to zoom in and I use the pen tool to start. I kind of trace the contours of his forehead. He has his forehead line, so I'm going to kind of trace the shape of his forehead and kind of meet the curvature. You want to make sure your fill and stroke are turned off. And once you have your line drawn, if you click on type on a path tool and click there, it will automatically kind of adjust to the line that you've drawn. This is nice so you don't have just a straight line. This kind of goes with the flow of his forehead, the curves, and kind of already is creating the shape. I'm using Bernard Condensed. You can use any one of the fonts that were approved on the list. I'm just going to show you real quick. I'm going to do about 29-point font is fine. In this case, I want to type in a phrase. I'm going to increase the font until it gets to the end of my line. And here's the technique that I'm going to teach you. It's called envelope and distort. So when you have your line of text, you go to the top of Illustrator under Object. It's called Envelope Distort. And then you click on Make with Mesh. And then you get a little pop-up box here. And I like to do about 6 by 9. So 6 rows, 9 columns. You can preview it so you can see what it looks like. And then you hit OK. And what this does, now you can grab your direct selection tool and click on each anchor point. If you click once, this will allow you to now manipulate the direction and the flow of the letter. So now I can almost make it kind of trace the contour of his head. And it gives a really cool effect. And you don't want to be too dramatic, but there we go. Okay, just play around with it. Then all you'll need to do is grab your pen tool again and trace again, kind of around the shape that you've created from the previous design. Grab your type on a path tool. And then this is where you'll put something else in there. All right, and then we'll go to Object, Envelope Distort, Make with Mesh. Hit OK. I'm going to grab my direct selection tool. This is where I'm going to kind of bring in my letters. And I'm going to pull them down here at the bottom so that they can start filling in the gaps that I've made the first one. So you kind of see how I'm doing this? Kind of get the idea. If I were you, I would practice. Just grab your pen tool, draw like a curvy line, and then grab your or your type on a path tool, and then grab Envelope Distort, and just try to kind of play with the look of the letters a little bit. to kind of stand back. So as I'm doing this, I'm doing it over and over. Yeah, you can choose a picture or you can create your own, Ashley. That's a great question. I've had some students take a picture of themselves or do a portrait of themselves, and that's really cool. I grabbed this off of Google, and this would suffice. I even did Yoda, and I saw that off of Google. So as long as it's your own work, then you can turn it in. This is what it would look like after you stack and play around. You can even go so far as to kind of do his jawline. All the way up. And then grab that type on a path tool. Okay, and then I kind of shrink this down. All right. So now I've got his basic jawline covered. Move this and kind of adjust. I'll grab the envelope distort tool again, make with mesh, hit OK. And now in this case, I can kind of curve things, or I can bring them out to his jawline. This probably could even stand to be smaller, so I'm going to back up. Okay. All right. Now that it's smaller, it's probably give me the look I'm going for. All right, then object, envelope, distort. Okay, zoom in. You can, don't be afraid to zoom in to kind of get the effect that you need. All right, so that kind of, all right, so that's how you would do his jawline. Kind of take a step back and look at what I'm doing. Grab the, to do the nose, kind of go in a circle here. Again, grab the type on a path tool. I do something really small. Go to Object, Envelope Distort. Zoom in. Click on the anchor point or hold down Shift to click on the anchor point. Hold on. It's so small, it's not letting me grab it. Hold on. Okay, there we go. All right. Then next, to do the ear, it's kind of the same concept. Kind of trace it. And then turn off your fill. Grab your type on a path tool and kind of do something like that. You can adjust your spacing or how small things are. But anyways, and then you can go fill in the gaps here with more text. You can shrink down font to get you the same effect. So you get the idea. This actually takes a lot of time to do, but this is another way that you could do a portrait. Right, and then you can just kind of fill in the gaps on the head and do the jawline until you've covered every part of his face. So that's another way that you can go, another route you can do with the Portrait Illustrator. When you're done, you do need to save a PDF. The way you save a PDF on Illustrator is you'll go Save As. You'll click down here under Format. You'll change it to Adobe PDF. You'll hit Save. You'll also tell it which, yeah. And then you'll click smallest file size, okay? Smallest file size. And then hit Save PDF. And then that will put it wherever you save it. When you do a portrait like this, you will need to delete the picture so that you can see what's left. All right, don't include the picture in your assignment. It just needs to be the typography, okay? The picture is just to kind of guide you and get, you know, give you the lay of the land, where to put your text. It's just a guide. That is about it. That's all you'll need to know for this week. Are there any questions for week 3? Is this pretty clear? It should be a fun assignment. I think, I hope you guys are looking forward to it. If you do have any questions along the way, please feel free to email me. Go visit the Learning Coach and our tutoring center or Student Success Center. They're there to help anytime that you can't work with me. I'll be here on Thursday for the multi-session. If you want to bring comments or questions, bring assignments to pass off. That's always fun too. And come, and I'd love to meet you if we haven't already met. And then let's work together to try to get this week's assignments done. If you have any late work that needs to be turned in, we're no longer accepting week 1 resubmissions or week 1 late work. So we're only accepting week 2 late work at this point, and then current week 3 work. So make sure you get your design posted in your discussion for the peer feedback. And I hope you guys have fun with this assignment. We'll see you next week. I guess I'll see you on Thursday, I should say. Thank you so much for coming and for participating. Really appreciate it. And we will see you soon. Thanks, Crystal. Good evening. Bye.